Section 28 of The Dream of the Red Chamber, Book 1. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Li Jing. The Dream of the Red Chamber, Book 1, by Cao Xueqin, translated by Henry Bancroft Joly. Chapter 13, Part 1. Qin Keqing dies, and Chia Rong is invested with the rank of military officer to the imperial bodyguard. Wang Xifeng lends her help in the management of the Rongguo mansion. Lady Feng, it must be added, in prosecuting our narrative, was ever since Chia Lian's departure to accompany Daiyu to Yangzhou really very dejected at heart, and every day, when evening came, she would, after simply indulging in a chat and a laugh with P'ing Erh, turn in a heedless frame of mind, for the night. In the course of the night of this day, she had been sitting with P'ing Erh by lamplight clasping the hand-stuff, and weary of doing her work of embroidery, she had at an early hour given orders to warm the embroidered quilt, and both had gone to bed. And as she was bending her fingers, counting the progress of the journey, and when they should be arriving, unexpectedly the third watch struck. P'ing Erh had already fallen fast asleep, and lady Feng was feeling at length her sleepy eyes slightly doze, when she faintly discerned Mrs. Ch'in walking from outside. "My dear sister-in-law," she said as she smiled, "sleep in peace. I'm on my way back to-day, and won't even you accompany me just one stage? But as you and I have been great friends all along, I cannot part from you, sister-in-law, and have therefore come to take my leave of you. There is besides a wish of mine, which isn't yet accomplished, and if I don't impart it to you, it isn't likely that telling any one else will be of any use." Lady Feng could not make out the sense of the words she heard. "What wish is it you have?" she inquired. "Do tell me, and will be safe enough with me." "You are, my dear sister-in-law, a heroine among women," observed Mrs. Ch'in, "so much so that those famous men, with sashes and official hats, cannot excel you. How is it that you are not aware of even a couple of lines of common adages, of that trite saying, 'When the moon is full, it begins to wane. When the waters are high, they must overflow,' and of that other, which says that, 'If you ascend high, heavy must be your fall.' Our family has now enjoyed splendor and prosperity for already well nigh a century, but a day comes when at the height of good fortune calamity arises. And if the proverb that 'when the tree falls the monkeys scatter' be fulfilled, will not futile have been the reputation of culture and old standing of a whole generation?" Lady Feng at these words felt her heart heavy and overpowered by intense awe and veneration. "The fears you express are well founded," she urgently remarked, "but what plan is there adequate to preserve it from future injury?" "My dear sister-in-law," rejoined Mrs. Ch'in with a sardonic smile, "you are very simple indeed. When woe has reached its climax, weal supervenes. Prosperity and adversity, from days of yore up to the present time, now pass away, and now again revive, and how can prosperity be perpetuated by any human exertion? But if now we could in the time of good fortune make provision against any worldly concerns, which might arise at any season of future adversity, we might in fact prolong and preserve it. Everything, for instance, is at present well regulated, but there are two matters which are not on a sure footing, and if such and such a suitable action could be adopted with regard to those concerns, it will in subsequent days be found easy to perpetuate the family welfare in its entity." "What matters are these?" inquired lady Feng. "Though at the graves of our ancestors," explained Mrs. Ch'in, "sacrifices and oblations be offered at the 4 seasons, there is nevertheless no fixed source of income. In the second place, the family school is, it is true, in existence, but it has no definite granting aid." According to my views, now that the times are prosperous, there's, as a matter of course, no lack of offerings and contributions. But by and by, when reserves set in, whence will these two outlets be met from? Would it not be as well, and my ideas are positive on this score, to avail ourselves of the present time, when riches and honours still reign, to establish in the immediate vicinity of our ancestral tombs a large number of farms, cottages, and estates, in order to enable the expenditure for offerings and grants to entirely emanate from this source? And if the household school were also established on this principle, the old and young in the whole clan can, after they have, by common consent, determined upon rules, exercise in days to come control, in the order of branches, over the affairs connected with the landed property, revenue, ancestral worship and school maintenance for the year of their respective term. Under this rotatory system, there will likewise be no animosities, neither will there be any mortgages or sales, or any of these numerous malpractices; and should any one happen to incur blame, his personal effects can be confiscated by government. But the properties from which will be derived the funds for ancestral worship, even the officials should not be able to appropriate; so that when reserves do supervene, the sons and grandsons of the family may be able to return to their homes, and prosecute their studies, or go in for farming. Thus, while they will have something to fall back upon, the ancestral worship will, in like manner, be continued in perpetuity. But if the present affluence and splendour be looked upon as bound to go on without intermission, and with no thought for the day to come, no enduring plan be after all devised, presently, in a little while, there will, once again, transpire a felicitous occurrence of exceptional kind, which, in point of fact, will resemble the splendour of oil scorched on violent fire, or fresh flowers decorated with brocades. You should bear in mind that it will also be nothing more real than a transient pageant, nothing but a short-lived pleasure. Whatever you do, don't forget the proverb, that there's no banquet, however sumptuous, from which the guests do not disperse. And unless you do, at an early date, take precautions against later evils, regret will, I apprehend, be of no avail." "What felicitous occurrence will take place?" lady Feng inquired with alacrity. "The decrees of heaven cannot be divulged, but as I have been very friendly with you, sister-in-law, for so long, I will present you, before I take my leave, with 2 lines which it behoves you to keep in mind," rejoined Mrs. Ch'in, as she consequently proceeded to recite what follows: "The 3 springs, when over, all radiance will wane. The inmates to seek each a home will be fain." Lady Feng was bent upon making further inquiries, when she heard a messenger at the second gate strike the cloudy board 4 consecutive blows. It was indeed the announcement of a death, and it woke up lady Feng with a start. A servant reported that Lady Jung of the Eastern Mansion was no more. Lady Feng was so taken aback that a cold perspiration broke out all over her person, and she fell for a while into vacant abstraction. But she had to change her costume with all possible haste, and to come over to madame Wang's apartments. By this time, all the members of the family were aware of the tidings, and there was not one of them who did not feel disconsolate. One and all of them were much wounded at heart. The elder generation bethought themselves of the dutiful submission which she had all along displayed; those of the same age as herself reflected upon the friendship and intimacy which had ever existed with her; those younger than her remembered her past benevolence. Even the servants of the household, whether old or young, looked back upon her qualities of sympathy with the poor, pity of the destitute, affection for the old, and consideration for the young; and not one of them all was there who did not mourn her loss, and give way to intense grief. But these irrelevant details need not be dilated upon. Suffice it to confine ourselves to Pao yü. Consequent upon Lin Daiyu's return home, he was left to his own self, and felt very lonely. Neither would he go and disport himself with others, but with the daily return of dusk, he was wont to retire quietly to sleep. On this day, while he was yet under the influence of a dream, he heard the announcement of Mrs. Ch'in's death, and turning himself round quickly, he crept out of bed, when he felt as if his heart had been stabbed with a sword. With a sudden retch, he straightway expectorated a mouthful of blood, which so frightened Hsi Jen and the rest that they rushed forward and supported him. "What is the matter?" they inquired, and they meant also to go and let dowager lady Chia know, so as to send for a doctor, but Pao yü dissuaded them. "There's no need of any flurry, it's nothing at all," he said. "It's simply that the fire of grief has attacked the heart, and that the blood did not circulate through the arteries." As he spoke, he speedily raised himself up, and after asking for his clothes and changing, he came over to see dowager lady Chia. His wish was to go at once to the other side, and Hsi Jen, though feeling uneasy at heart, seeing the state of mind he was in, did not again hinder him, as she felt constrained to let him please himself. When old lady Chia saw that he was bent upon going, "The breath is just gone out of the body," she consequently remonstrated, "and that side is still solid. In the second place, it's now dark, and the wind is high, so you had better wait until to morrow morning, when you will be in ample time." Pao yü would not agree to this, and dowager lady Chia gave orders to get the carriage ready, and to depute a few more attendants and followers to go with him. Under this escort he went forward and straightway arrived in front of the Ning mansion, where they saw the main entrance wide open, the lamps on the two sides giving out a light as bright as day, and people coming and going in confused and large numbers, while the sound of weeping inside was sufficient to shake the mountains and to move the hills. Pao yü dismounted from the carriage, and with a hurried step walked into the apartment, where the coffin was laid. He gave vent to bitter tears for a few minutes, and subsequently paid his salutations to Mrs. Yu. Mrs. Yu, as it happened, had just had a relapse of her old complaint of pains in the stomach, and was lying on her bed. He eventually came out again from her chamber to salute Chia Zhen, just at the very moment that Chia Dairu, Dai Xiu, Chia Chi, Chia Xiao, Chia Dun, Chia She, Chia Zheng, Chia Cong, Chia Bian, Chia Hang, Chia Guang, Chia Chen, Chia Qiong, Chia Ling, Chia Qiang, Chia Chang, Chia Lin, Chia Yun, Chia Qin, Chia Zhen, Chia Ping, Chia Zao, Chia Hen, Chia Fen, Chia Fang, Chia Lan, Chia Jun, Chia Zhi, and the other relatives of the families had likewise arrived in a body. Chia Zheng wept so bitterly that he was like a man of tears. "Of the whole family, whether young or old, distant relatives or close friends," he was just explaining to Chia Dairu and the rest, "who did not know that this girl was 100 times better than even our son? But now that her spirit has retired, it's evident that this elder branch of the family will be cut off, and that there will be no survivor." While he gave vent to these words, he again burst into tears, and the whole company of relatives set to work at once to pacify him. "She has already departed this life," they argued, "and tears are also of no avail; besides, the pressing thing now is to consult as to what kind of arrangements are to be made." Chia Zhen clapped his hands. "What arrangements are to be made?" he exclaimed. "Nothing is to be done but what is within my means." As they conversed, they perceived Qin Ye and Qin Zhong, as well as several relations of Mrs. Yu, arrive, together with Mrs. Yu's sisters, and Chia Zhen forthwith bade Chia Qiong, Chia Shen, Chia Ling, and Chia Se, the four of them, to go and entertain the guests, while he, at the same time, issued directions to go and ask the astrologer of the Imperial Observatory to come and choose the days for the ceremonies. This astrologer decided that the coffin should remain in the house for 7 times 7 days, that is 49 days, and after the 3rd day, the morning rites should be begun and the formal cards should be distributed, that all that was to be done during those 49 days was to invite 108 Buddhist bonzes to perform, in the main hall, the high confession mass, in order to forge the souls of departed relatives across the abyss of suffering, and afterwards to transmute the spirit of Mrs. Ch'in, that, in addition, an altar should be erected in the Tower of Heavenly Fragrance, where 9 times 9 virtuous Taoist priests should, for 19 days, offer up prayers for absolution from punishment, and purification from retribution. That after these services, the tablet should be moved into the garden of concentrated fragrance, and that in the presence of the tablet, 15 additional eminent bonzes and 15 renowned Taoist priests should confront the altar and perform meritorious deeds every 7 days. The news of the death of the wife of his eldest grandson reached Chia Jing, but as he himself felt sure that, at no distant date, he would ascend to the regions above, he was loath to return again to his home, and so expose himself to the contamination of the world, as to completely waste the meritorious excellence acquired in past days. For this reason, he paid no heed to the event, but allowed Chia Zhen a free hand to accomplish the necessary preparations. Chia Zhen, to whom we again revert, was fond of display and extravagance, so that he found, on inspection of coffins, those few made of pine wood unsuitable to his taste; when, strange coincidence, Xue Pan came to pay his visit of condolence, and perceiving that Chia Zhen was in quest of a good coffin, "In our establishment," he readily suggested, "we have a lot of timber of some kind or other called Jiang wood, which comes from the Tie Wang Mount in Huanghai, and which made into coffins will not rot, not for 10,000 years. This lot was, in fact, brought down some years back by my late father, and had at one time been required by His Highness I Zhong, a prince of the royal blood. But as he became guilty of some mismanagement, it was, in consequence, not used, and is still lying stored up in our establishment; and another thing besides is that there is no one with the means to purchase it. But if you do want it, you should come and have a look at it." Chia Zhen, upon hearing this, was extremely delighted, and gave orders that the planks should be there and then brought over. When the whole family came to inspect them, they found those for the sides and the bottom to be all 8 inches thick, the grain like betel nut, the smell like sandalwood or musk, while, when tapped with the hand, the sound emitted was like that of precious stones, so that one and all agreed in praising the timber for its remarkable quality. "What is their price?" Chia Zhen inquired with a smile. "Even with 1,000 taels in hand," explained Xue Pan laughingly, "I feel sure you wouldn't find any place where you could buy the bike. Why ask about price? If you just give the workmen a few taels for their labor, it would be quite sufficient." Chia Zhen, at these words, lost no time in giving expression to profuse assurances of gratitude, and was forthwith issued directions that the timber should be split, sawn and made up, when Chia Zhen proffered his advice. "Such articles shouldn't," he said, "be, in my idea, enjoyed by persons of the common run. It would be quite ample if the body were placed in a coffin made of pine of the best quality." But Chia Zhen would not listen to any suggestion. Suddenly he further heard that Mrs. Ch'in's waiting maid, Rui Zhu by name, had, after she had become alive to the fact that her mistress had died, knocked her head against a post and likewise succumbed to the blows. This unusual occurrence the whole clan extolled in high terms, and Chia Zhen promptly directed that, with regard to ceremonies, she should be treated as a granddaughter, and that the body should, after it had been placed in the coffin, be also deposited in the hall of attained immortality in the garden of concentrated fragrance. There was likewise a young waiting maid, called Pao Zhu, who, as Mrs. Ch'in left no issue, was willing to become an adopted child, and begged to be allowed to undertake the charge of dashing the mourning bowl, and accompanying the coffin, which pleased Chia Chen so much that he speedily transmitted orders that from that time forth Pao Zhu should be addressed by all as young miss. Pao Zhu, after the rites of an unmarried daughter, mourned before the coffin to such an unwonted degree, as if bent upon snapping her own life, while the members of the entire clan, as well as the inmates of the mansions, each and all, readily observed, in their conduct, the established mourning usages, without of course any transgression or confusion. Chia Rong, pondered Chia Chen, has no higher status than that of graduate by purchase, and were this designation written on the funeral streamer, it will not be imposing; and in point of fact the retinue will likewise be small. He therefore was exceedingly unhappy in his own mind, when, as luck would have it, on this day, which was the 4th day of the first 7, Tai Quan, a eunuch of the palace of high renown, whose office was that of palace overseer, first prepared sacrificial presents, which he sent round by messengers, and next came himself in an official chair, preceded by criers beating the gong, to offer sacrificial oblations. Chia Chen promptly received him, and pressed him into a seat, and when they adjourned into the hall of the loitering bees, tea was presented. Chia Chen had already arrived at a fixed purpose, so that he seized an opportunity to tell him of his wish to purchase an office for Chia Rong's advancement. Tai Quan understood the purport of his remark. "It is, I presume," he added smilingly, "that the funeral rites should be a little more sumptuous." "My worthy sir," eagerly rejoined Chia Chen, "your surmise on that score is perfectly correct." "The question," explained Tai Quan, "comes up at an opportune moment, for there is just at present a good vacancy. Of the 300 officers who at present constitute the imperial bodyguard, there are 2 wanting. Yesterday Marquis Shangyang's 3rd brother came to appeal to me with 1,500 taels of ready money, which he brought over to my house. You know the friendship of old standing which exists between him and me, so that, placing other considerations aside, I without a second thought assented for his father's sake. But there still remains another vacancy, which, who would have thought it, fat General Feng, of Yongxing, asked to purchase for his son; but I have had no time to give him an answer. Besides, as our child wants to purchase it, you had better at once write a statement of his antecedents." Chia Chen lost no time in bidding some one write the statement on red paper, which Tai Quan found, on perusal, to record that Chia Rong was a graduate, by purchase, of the district of Jiangning of the Yingtian prefecture in Jiangnan; that Chia Tai Hua, his great grandfather, had been commander in chief of the metropolitan camp, and an hereditary general of the 1st class, with the prefix of spiritual majesty; that his grandfather Chia Ching was a metropolitan graduate of the tripos in the Ping Chen year, and that his father Chia Zhen had inherited a rank of nobility of the 3rd degree, and was a general with the prefix of majestic intrepidity. Tai Quan, after perusal, turned his hand behind him and passed the statement to a constant attendant of his, to put away. "Go back," he enjoined him, "and give it to His Excellency Mr. Chao at the head of the Board of Revenue, and tell him that I present him my compliments, and would like him to draw up a warrant of subaltern of the Imperial Bodyguard of the 5th grade, and to also issue a commission, that he should take the particulars from this statement and fill them up, and that to morrow I'll come and have the money weighed and sent over." The young attendant signified his obedience, and Tai Quan thereupon took his leave. Chia Chen did all he could to detain him, but with no success, so that he had no alternative but to escort him as far as the entrance of the mansion. As he was about to mount into his chair, Chia Chen inquired, "As regards the money, should I go and pay it into the board, or am I to send it to the board of eunuchs?" "If you were to go and pay it at the board," observed Tai Quan, "you are sure to suffer loss; so that it would be better if you just weighed exactly 1,000 taels and sent them over to my place, for then an end will be put to all trouble." Chia Chen was incessant in his expression of gratitude. "When the period of mourning has expired," he consequently added, "I shall lead in person my despicable eldest son to your mansion, to pay our obeisance and express our thanks." They then parted company, but close upon this, were heard again the voices of runners. It was in fact the spouse of Shih Ting, the Marquis of Chung Ching, who was just arriving. Shih Xiangyun, Mesdames Wang and Xing, lady Feng and the rest came out at once to greet her and lead her into the main building. When they further saw the sacrificial presents of the three families, of the Marquis of Chinxiang, the Marquis of Chuanning, and the Earl of Shaoshan, likewise spread out in front of the tablet. Section 28.